was just
uniform.
Thinking, we're both back in our uniforms.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that kind of uniform.
Because it's a Wednesday again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So during Lent, I don't know why I do this. I guess it's because it's a time of repentance, right? So black seems appropriate. So I go back to the old school uniform during Wednesdays in Lent, and we're continuing through our series Witnesses to Christ this evening, and so that'll be good.
We're recording this on a Wednesday too, so we've got the Wednesday night service that we'll be doing here in a little bit. And I'm wearing my purple again because purple's the color of Lent. I don't have this uniform.
This get up yet? Yeah, that's okay. There's worse things. I guess that there's really no way around it. I think we have to talk about the slap heard around the world.
Yes, I mean.
If everyone else on the interwebs is going to weigh in, I guess we have to weigh in too.
It's what was Chris Rock's statement? The best thing on television ever.
Yeah, I think that was.
I mean,
I think that was probably
a
little facetious, but yeah. So the Oscars, who have seen their ratings consistently slump for years now, just got a little boost because Will Smith walked up and slapped Chris Rock right in the face.
Right upside the head.
Right upside the head. And then the guy who made his whole brand off of you don't have to cuss to be a rapper dropped the F-bomb twice and told Chris Rock to keep his wife's name out of his mouth.
Yelling in the middle of the Oscar ceremony for everybody to hear.
Loud enough for everybody in that auditorium.
I mean, he's right down at the front row, so
Yeah.
it's only 30 feet away from the front of the stage or whatever it is.
Right, from the mics and all that.
So you can hear him, and it made it super awkward.
Yeah, super awkward. I liked some of the photographs that I saw because people had taken like a photo or a still shot of the feed as Will smacked Chris, and you see all these celebrities and how they're reacting. I think my favorite has got to be The Rock. Dwayne Johnson's there in the crowd.
I didn't see this, so you got to tell me.
So The Rock is there in the crowd. You know, this is a guy. He's used to theatrics and violent theatrics, right? Because he was a pro wrestler.
I mean, yeah.
And his face is like all screwed up. Like, what am I looking at?
What in the world just happened?
Yeah, it's so great. And then the most like, I don't know, probably one of the more, I don't know, just pure shock and horrified looks was on. I'm going to blank on his name. Good Will Hunting, Jason Bourne movies.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. We're always rescuing him from somewhere, a war or Mars or something. So Matt Damon is sitting there. He looked absolutely horrified, like almost frightened. You know, like what am I seeing? You know. So it's kind of funny. You had all kinds of reactions.
Let's do this real quick though.
Yeah.
To tell the whole story of it, in case there is somebody listening and watching that has been living in a cave.
Yeah, if you've been under a rock
Yeah.
and you don't know everything that just happened.
But the gist of it is,
Yeah.
Chris Rock was out there to present some award.
Yeah, and he's I don't know if he was MC or he's just there to present an award, but it's common
To make a few jokes.
He's
especially
if you're a pro comedian. Yeah, you're a professional stand-up comedian. So it's usual to make a few jokes, maybe even roast some people, rib them a little bit, give them a hard time.
And so that's what he did. He happened to make a joke about Will Smith's wife.
Jada Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And evidently Will Smith didn't like it very much.
The joke was about how he was that Chris Rock was looking forward to G.I. Jane 2.
Yep.
Which was a movie that
Demi
Moore starred in, and she shaved her head for it. And Jada Smith has been claiming that she has alopecia. Now, I don't know the stages of alopecia, but I know that typically people who suffer from alopecia do not have stubble. They have no hair. And she had stubble like it was shaved. I also know that people with alopecia typically don't have their eyebrows, which she has beautiful eyebrows. I don't know if they're drawn in. They could be. I don't know. But she says that she's got alopecia. So to get out ahead of it, I guess, she shaved her head.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some spots where it's already not growing back in. But she shaved her head to get out ahead of it and just to create a new look. So she's going to go with the bald look, right? And then Chris Rock made the joke about, I'm looking forward to G.I. Jane 2 because now her head's shaved. it, we'll have to get back to what people said about the joke later. It doesn't seem like there's been horrible things said at the Oscars, and it doesn't seem like the most.
If you're looking at where the bar has been set about how horrible you can go in roasting someone,
Right. That was actually pretty tame.
this is middle of the road, if not pretty tame. And the interesting thing about it, though, for me,
But it upset her
yeah,
because she had a face. It upset her because I guess she's upset about her alopecia, right? So that may have hurt her feelings.
but the
right?
interesting thing for me with this is you look at it, and Will Smith actually laughs at first.
Until he
And-
sees her face.
Until he sees her face, but then he goes
Right.
up there and he hits him. But I've seen a few people, different people that were there that reacted to this that thought it was just a bit at this point.
Yeah, people didn't know what to think.
Like they thought it was just something that, like the,
I've even
Chris Rock and Will
seen-
Smith plan. Maybe,
I've even
or-
seen some stuff in social media where there are people who were saying that it was staged, like
Yes.
they got a conspiracy theory that it was like wink wink, like it was because he doesn't deck him, he doesn't punch him like you might punch a dude. I'm a pastor. I don't want to say what we would normally call this kind of a slap, but he slaps him open handed.
just across the side
Yeah,
of his
just
cheek
across
and
the
his
side
jaw.
of the cheek and jaw. It looked almost like. Have you ever seen like professional slapping
I
contests?
have seen professional.
Have you seen? Those are awesome, by the way. And those people just stand there and they just get ready, and then somebody just hauls off and smacks them.
And it's whether you can take the slap or you get knocked down.
Right.
Yeah.
But it looked like a professional slapping competition because of where he caught him, like right here, But it was an open-handed smack, and he smacks him across the face. And so then I didn't like. To me, it wasn't even like a duel where you like backhand somebody and be like, "I challenge thee,"
And you hit him with your glove.
Yeah, we will. It will be pistols at dawn, and then he backhand the guy. But it wasn't even like that. It was just this open-handed, across the cheek and jaw slap. Anyway, so and then he goes back and sits down, and then that's where Chris Rock is just left standing on stage on national TV, having been insulted like that,
Yeah.
right? So
And his face looks shocked.
yeah, his face looks totally shot. He's like, Will Smith just smacked me.
Yeah.
And he says it out loud. Like, he's trying to process it right now. Like, what just
And then
happened?
he makes some reference of, I didn't think the joke was that bad. I mean, but,
Yeah. And then that's when Will screamed to Chris, keep my wife's name out of your mouth. And he dropped an F-bomb. And then Chris is still in shock. So he's like, what? And so then Will said it again. He yelled it again.
And then Chris Rock said, fine, I won't.
Yeah, I won't.
I won't say her anything.
Yeah, say your name again tonight, And so then there you go from there.
The interesting thing for me with this, just looking at this in terms of all the, microscopic attention this has gotten over the last few days, and
Yeah.
what could we say about it in terms of what this looks like for society as 1.5 pastors is...
Well, wait. First of all, I have to say what it means to me personally.
Okay, all right, yeah, go for that. Yeah.
What it means to me personally is that there's been like a whole 24-hour news cycle period where I got to focus on stupidity amongst rich people instead of stupidity in Congress or with our president or somebody else. So
the war in Ukraine.
or the war in
some-
Ukraine.
some other
So it was actually for me. It was like a welcome.
respite.
Oh, okay. I can talk about stupid celebrities for a second, but so that's what it meant to me personally. So I appreciate it from that standpoint. It was because it's been so weird in our country and in our world lately that this was actually like, oh, it's just celebrities behaving badly. Okay.
And in that sense, to talk about my reaction to it personally, I just thought it was hilarious. It's not good,
No, it's not good. Yeah.
but I thought it was hilarious just in the sense that it was just ridiculous.
It was so over the top, I feel like,
Yeah.
and everybody's weighed in. Other celebrities have weighed in. Jim Carrey had an interview on TV.
I was telling you, I watched a little blurb where Jimmy Fallon and
Jimmy Kimmel also
no,
weighed in.
yeah, it was Jimmy Kimmel. I'm
Jimmy
sorry, I said the
Kimmel
wrong
weighed
one. He
in.
weighed in. Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of other celebrities have weighed in, different talk show hosts, whatever. I think even Joe Rogan has weighed in.
Yeah.
We're not going to reinvent the wheel here, say something that somebody hasn't said, except for the fact that I think we need to be clear about how. Okay, it's like anything else right now. You could go out to the middle of the road out here in front of the church, spit on the yellow line, and people will take sides. right now everybody's so divided that everybody immediately feels like they got to take sides. Some people are taking the side of Chris Rock. Some people are actually taking Will Smith's side and saying things like, well, it's okay for him to defend his wife, and Chris Rock shouldn't have made that joke because alopecia, is hurtful.
It's a serious
it's
thing.
a serious thing,
Yeah.
and it hurts people. And then people on the other side going, yeah, but he only said words. You don't walk up and slap somebody on national TV if you only say words. And then they point out that Will and Jada's marriage is to say the least, not always conventional. Like she in the last year she was sleeping with some young guy, and Will knew about it or found out about it.
They've clearly gone through some stuff that maybe impacts how he reacted, why he reacted.
And so
the
some
way that he
people have
did.
said, well, Will, why didn't you punch the dude that was sleeping with your wife? Instead, you punch Chris Rock or slap Chris Rock for saying a joke,
Yeah.
And so and people are lining up. They're taking sides. What I think is just too bad is, for me, what bothered me about the whole incident is that it proved yet again that there's a double standard in this country today that is palpable. Like you can see it, you can feel it, and you can see it. There's one rule for rich people,
Yes.
who are famous. Anybody else does that, they would have been hauled out of that auditorium immediately by the police and security. They would have been arrested. They would have been, and then Chris would have had the opportunity to press charges for assault or not.
Yep.
Let him go. But he definitely would have gone to jail to cool off. You don't get A-list stars like Denzel Washington getting to come over to you and go, calm down. That's not what you get if you're a regular schmo.
Even if you don't get walked out in cuffs, you definitely get kicked out of the event.
Yeah, and you don't get to win and then get up there and give some teary-eyed speech about how we all get to be vessels of love, which is what Will did. He won, and then he gets up there and gives this teary-eyed speech about how we all need to be vessels of love after he just slapped a dude on national television at an award show. It's an award show.
He lost it.
He lost it. He did.
The thing that's, I agree with that, the double standard of things in terms of how we deal with things in society. But the thing that I found even, I don't know if fascinating is the right word. I don't know what the right word is, because it's not really fascinating. It's really disgusting in a lot of ways too. But is this being another example of where our society's at and how quick, and some of this is because of platforms, whether it's Twitter, whether it's whatever it happens to be, that there's lots of ways you can say lots of things about what you think. And in some ways that's good. But this becomes
I'm a big believer in free speech.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Including telling a joke about some guy's wife maybe that he doesn't like. But
it's an award show. He's a professional comedian. What did you expect was going to happen? You know what I was actually shocked at is that Chris did not immediately launch into more jokes.
Yep.
Which he could have done.
Yep.
But then it would have been escalated from there, see? So I think Chris, in my view, did the right thing by trying to de-escalate it immediately.
He really, I mean,
I know he was shocked, but I think he showed a lot of self-control and restraint.
he helped just kind of put it away.
Yeah.
But the thing for me with, those of you seen the video, I've seen the video, millions of people have seen the video all across the country, is the degree, because again of platforms, because of vehicles to get your voice out, is it becomes this very much finger pointing, this constant finger pointing in this way of saying, well, I'm going to judge Will Smith because he hit him and he yelled.
Or I'm going to judge Chris Rock because he made fun of his wife.
Or I'm going to judge Will Smith's wife because of what she did and whether that's making Will Smith act this way. Or I'm going to
it doesn't make him, but it probably influenced him.
but there'll be people coming to that conclusion or coming to that kind of judgment in it.
Yeah, sure.
And it becomes this thing, and we've seen this even in the sense of I'm going to jump to another comedian for a minute, but Dave Chappelle said things.
Yeah, that angered a lot of people.
That angered a lot of people, and the quick pervasiveness to say,
well, he's transphobic, or he's
and that was the specific piece that happened this last year with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
The quick marshaling everything to judge someone, to say you shouldn't be a part of society anymore.
Yeah.
Because you've acted in a way that's outside of what we think is appropriate.
Right.
Which is an interesting thing.
It's cancel culture is what it is.
It's cancel culture, but it's also this weird manifestation of God's law being written on our hearts, that people don't even know that they're acting that way.
Because they're immediately judging.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's... whether that's the different take we take on this today or not, I don't know. But that's the part that got my brain going is seeing all this different stuff of, I'm going to say Will Smith's wrong, I'm going to say Chris Rock is wrong, I'm going to say that the Academy's wrong because of the second or the double standard with rich people. I'm going to say that Will Smith's wife is wrong. I'm going to say
I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Yeah.
And in the words of Dave Chappelle, this might be controversial, right? But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they're all wrong because we're all a bunch of sinners. So just give us enough time. Somebody on social media found an old clip. You remember the old, like you'd be watching Saturday morning cartoons and they'd be like, the more you know.
Oh, yeah.
And there's all these celebrities like trying to teach kids how to act right in society or whatever. And they said this did not age well. There's an old one from like the 90s, the 1990s, of Will Smith during the years he was doing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And he comes out dressed like the Fresh Prince, right? Dressed like that character. And he's talking to kids about, I know it's tough. Somebody's a bully. They say some mean words, and you want to get those hands up immediately. But, next time you want to do that, think. Because the guy that thinks is always stronger than the guy that just reacts and wants to start a fight. And the caption was, this did not age well.
The side-by-side of what he said then versus what he did a few days ago. Yeah.
So it's still part of that judging. Mm-hmm. Right? It's still part of that judging. It's also funny because it's true, right? But it's even when you're making a joke, it is a way of continuing that immediate marshaling of how many people can we get on board to dogpile upon somebody who lost it, who did the wrong thing. I don't think anybody can honestly say he did the right thing. I mean, I know people say, well, he defended his wife and stuff.
She wasn't.
Context clues help a lot. If
she was under imminent danger, yes, you defend your wife.
Right.
But a joke is not threatening her life.
Mm-hmm. So not a celebrity by any means, but a public figure in a community. Mm-hmm. There are enough people in the city of Lincoln who know who I am and where I'm a pastor at and all that stuff, and not everybody's always said kind things about my wife. You know what I mean? Like, people sometimes say mean or rude things to a pastor or to a pastor's wife. Now, don't nobody out there tempt a brother. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody out there tempt the pastor to lose his religion on you. But to date, I have yet to slap somebody for saying something rude. Just because they said something rude. There's other ways to handle it. And you can set boundaries for people. You can speak up. You can let your voice be heard. You can say, that's not going to be acceptable with me. You're going to walk that back right now. You can say things like that. But to date, I haven't had to slap anybody, So, knock on wood. I don't know. I don't know. Is that where the pastor gets superstitious? Knock on wood. But yeah, so it's... I don't think anybody can genuinely say that what he did was right.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like to dogpile upon somebody when they've messed up, they've done something wrong. That immediate rush to judge is something that I think in and of itself might be questionable. Right.
Well, and my thought through it when, if for those of you that are listening, for folks that we're dealing with here at Faith in our congregation in terms of how we're looking at the messiness of the world sometimes and looking at this as being as manifestation of the messiness of the world. And but even more so, aside from what happened at the Oscars, but the aftermath of it and the need to talk about it, the need to judge, the need to point fingers, the need to take sides, the need to always, if somebody spits on the line outside, you got to take sides. Mm-hmm. To need to make sense of all this is to remember that we're seeing manifestations of because we ate of the tree, judging good and evil. Mm-hmm. We're there because
and we can't help ourselves hardly.
And when you look at it that way, and maybe you feel like you're pulling your hair out, or you just think society is going to hell, and it sometimes kind of is.
Our culture today is garbage in this country, and fight me if you want to slap me, fight me. Our culture today is garbage. In the United States, we have really lost our bearings in a lot of ways, and I don't think that's a controversial statement.
No.
So it is a manifest. Like what happened at the Oscars is a. I mean, can you imagine something like that happening at the Oscars in Hollywood's golden age, like the 1940s, 1950s, 60s, whatever? Somebody doing something like that. Nobody would do something like that. So it.
Or even if something remotely close that's analogous somehow, that's even a lesser degree happened, there wouldn't be all this discussion about is it right, is it wrong, who did the right thing, why is this,
Yeah.
It would have been quickly condemned of this is just wrong.
Yeah. I wonder if back then that person would have been escorted out.
Yes.
Because I kind of, it's easy to say, and I don't know if there's an example, because there's nothing not like this that's ever happened at that award show, but it makes me wonder, would that person have been escorted out? Whereas today, I think I saw, it was the interview with Jim Carrey, there was a gal interviewing him, and I think she made the point, well, the producers really strongly considered having him escorted out. That's so disingenuous.
It's doublespeak.
Yeah, it's doublespeak. Well, we really strongly considered it, and that's...
The thought did not enter our heads.
The thought did not. Yeah, that's I don't know, man. Hire that person to be the White House spokesperson. You know what I mean? That's such doublespeak.
I don't know if this is too much to unpack for this podcast, and maybe we can come back to this a different day, but when we think about what may have happened 50 years ago versus what happened this week...
Right.
It becomes to me an example of, and you've said this before, we've talked about this before, I don't know about upon a podcast, but of a shift from moving from a guilt-innocence culture to a shame-honor culture.
Yeah.
The way that this gets responded to over the last few days is very much about who should I shame because of what they did wrong.
Because of what they did wrong.
Rather than just having a collective understanding that what you did was wrong.
Right. So let's deal with the thing that you did.
How do you make amends?
Let's not worry about shaming you for forever. Let's just, how do we make amends for the situation?
Yeah.
And that is a different move, because what some people were shaming Will for was that he went to an after party after the Oscars and he was dancing and singing to his own lyrics to his own songs, and he was dancing with his little trophy, right? And they were shaming him that somehow, I guess, because he messed up, he shouldn't celebrate the fact that he just won an Oscar.
His first ever.
Yeah, his first ever. He should instead, I guess, go into a corner and cry all night or something. But that's not what people do if you win an Oscar. You go to the after party. Well, you know what I mean?
And the fact that, whether we want to boil it down to this, for each of us as sinners, we're all sinners. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you haven't slapped anybody that said anything about your wife. I haven't, not either.
Yeah. Yet. I just want to just say yet.
Knock on wood again.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
But the point being that, like, whatever mistakes I have made, whatever mistakes you have made, does that somehow mean that I shouldn't ever have joy again? Because I made a mistake that somebody saw once, and...
Well, that's my point about people, like, making fun of him for going to that. I mean, it's his after part. Like, what are you supposed to do? Say, sorry, guys, it's canceled because I was a moron?
Yep.
I mean, he didn't send Chris to the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's embarrassed, and Will should be embarrassed, in my opinion.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of shame. Shame's not all bad,
And Will Smith...
But it's not like you're not going to go to your own after party. That's not what happens.
And I didn't read the full extent of it. I just saw a note that Will Smith did apologize the next day.
Yeah, he issued a... I mean, that's what you do. You get your publicist to...
Maybe, yeah. I don't know how genuine...
I don't know how teary-eyed that one was. I know that the acceptance speech was
But at
teary-eyed.
least issuing an apology is the right thing to do. Whether it was genuine or not, I don't know. But
sure,
yes.
And that's really beside the point. The point is, he did the next day address it.
Yep.
Issued a statement, and the Academy, more doublespeak. They've launched a vigorous investigation. Like what? I don't even know what that means. Like, what does that even mean? They're not a law enforcement body.
What are they going to do?
They're not Congress. What are you going to do?
They didn't kick him out of the event.
If you didn't kick him out and you didn't say he wasn't allowed to win his award, what I hope they won't try to do is something baloney, like try to take his award back now, like,
or that he can't win one next year or something.
Yeah, it's because it's silly. It happened. Now it needs to be worked out between the two men and their lawyers, probably. I don't know if somebody's going to try to sue somebody or what, but like that's going to have to be worked out separately at this point. And the Academy saying something like that is just so silly to me. The whole thing is just so silly.
It felt like they had to say something.
Yeah, so that's what they said. We've launched a vigorous investigation. Like I don't even know what that means. You know, you're talking about the same academy that like looked the other way on Harvey Weinstein for years. You know what I mean? Like what kind of vigorous investigation are we talking about here? You know.
But again, that's also maybe in a sense a reaction to the fact that they don't want to be shamed because they've dealt with it the wrong way.
Because then the public will say, well, the academy should, say something or do something.
Well, I want to do this. I've got a quote here in front of me.
Sure.
I want to nerd out a little bit, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just want to at least kind of talk about this. This is from C.S. Lewis, from Mere Christianity. And
Mere Christianity.
It's Mere Christianity. This is a series.
That's a book you wrote.
It's a book he wrote, but it's really a series of radio talks that he gave, I believe, during World War II.
That's right, and then they compiled the radio talks later. Okay,
and he really addresses, like, this is from the first part of his book. He's really addressing this from more recognizing how we see God in the world, almost from a more philosophical level initially, before he really dives into what religion is, what Christianity is.
Yeah.
And I think this is poignant when you look at something like this. And
I just want to point out that I think you have an amazing capacity to move from pop culture to philosophy like that. That really is a capacity, Dan.
They're just connected somehow.
Yeah, like sure, everybody sees this connection, right? When I watch TMZ, I immediately think of C.S. Lewis. Yeah, I mean, we got to say out loud, Dan, this is just sort of you. So go ahead and read it. Like what's the excerpt you wanted to read?
So he's talking here about our natural behaviors in terms of the tendency to want to point their finger at somebody else.
Okay, all right.
And you see that obviously in the ways we talk about shaming everyone.
Sure. So fire away.
So he says, now what interests me about all these remarks is the man who makes them is not merely saying that the other man's behavior does not happen to please him. Like, it isn't just that I didn't like what you did.
Yeah, you're actually trying to say what the other person did was objectively wrong.
He's appealing to some kind of standard of behavior which he expects the other person to know about.
Right.
And
like you should just know you shouldn't slap somebody.
And this is the quote I was thinking about with C.S. Lewis with this, is that the other person, so if you thought I did something wrong to you, or I thought you did something wrong to me, the other person that's appealing to the standard doesn't ever say, well, to hell with your standard.
Yeah, right.
Like they're admitting out loud that like they're just talking about standards of behavior.
Yeah.
Nearly always he tries to make out why what he has done does not really go against the standard.
Yeah, self-justifying.
Or that somehow there's
I didn't really I didn't really say that, or I didn't really do that, or what I was really doing was this.
I did this because it's what you needed to hear, or I did this because I was upset or I was angry. You're making some excuses.
Right.
But really, C.S. Lewis's point here is he's really diving into the fact that God's law is written on our hearts. Mm-hmm. Because of Adam and Eve eating of the tree in the garden, because we've fallen into sin, but we still have God's law in our hearts that's always appealing to us to act the right way, even if you don't even understand what that is, even if there's a whole bunch of people on social media right now blowing up about whether Chris Rock shouldn't have told the joke, or Will Smith shouldn't have hit him, or whether Will Smith should have hit the guy that was sleeping with his wife, or all the different manifestations of this. This is just manifestations of people's own trying to just reconcile, work through the fact that they know that they mess up.
Yeah, self-justification. Yeah, absolutely. And it shows you that even in the middle of a world that can't seem to define what a woman is,
yes,
or can't settle on how many genders there are, or it's bizarre the kinds of things that are being said in society today in the public square, and it makes you start to believe that there's not still a real moral standard, that it's just whatever anybody wants to make up. And yet moments like what happened at the Oscars remind us that even if you're disagreeing about who you think is at fault, there's something that's still there that points to the fact that there is a natural law and that it is written on our hearts from creation.
And even the fact that in the midst of all of this, you're still looking for that thing that's going to make you feel better. Mm-hmm. And what you have here is shame.
Right.
Well, I'm going to shame somebody else because that makes me feel better.
Right.
That makes me feel justified.
I can feel superior to that person in their behavior.
But that's still in a weird little small moment that if you're not Christian, you don't have to understand, or maybe if you are Christian, you don't always feel and understand, is it's still that moment of, I'm trying to make things right between me and God.
Right. Yeah.
Which we know we can't do on our own.
No. Well, we know
Yes.
We can't do it on our own. But if you don't have Christ, you do think that there's some way you're going to be able to self-justify. And
you wouldn't even consciously say that's what you're doing.
No.
You don't even know that's what you're doing.
because you kind of just do it instinctively. We are born with God's law in our hearts, but we're also born into a sinful nature. We have this proclivity. We have this predisposition to sin. And therefore, we have a predisposition to try to self-justify before that same law that's written in our hearts. Our consciences attack us constantly, right? And weirdly, there's comfort in that for me because, like I said, in the middle of a culture that has really lost its moorings, when it comes to something like a universal accepted standard of morality, behavior, heck, science, what constitutes this, that, and the other thing, to see in these moments that there is still something in Americans that points to the idea that there is an order in creation and that by our actions we sometimes still know somehow on some level that we've gone against it.
Yep.
Tells me that there's still an opportunity to preach, to proclaim both God's law that's written in our hearts, but also his gospel, because, hey man, you can keep trying to justify yourself, you're never going to get there. Let me tell you about one who justifies. His name is Jesus Christ. And so to be able to still know that there's room in this culture, as messed up as our culture is today, to still lift up the idea of God's law and his gospel, and that can still be intelligible even to Americans today, is weirdly comforting. And that's what I see when I see the grieving that people have over an unfortunate incident like this.
Well, and I think to expand on that, for those of us that see stuff like this, or you see stuff like cancel culture, you see stuff like when Twitter or Facebook blows up and it's all negative and all this kind of stuff, and it's this finger pointing, it's this shaming. Yeah. For me, part of the moment that I try to rest in with that is to look at that stuff and recognize these are people just trying to work through their own sin. They don't know it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're trying to work through their sin...
Will Smith got some churn going on in there about something.
But the fact that he's trying to work through his own sin means that there's that moment.
Yeah.
Well, there's two things. One, I know who Jesus is.
Mm-hmm.
And not in a superior sense to say, thank goodness I'm forgiven and they're not. But there's a wonderful comfort in
Will
peace.
might actually know who Jesus is. I don't know. I've never met the man.
True.
So
yeah.
He might actually know who Jesus is. I don't know if we're all aware of this, but people who know who Jesus is still sin. They still lose it, or they still do something wrong, or they still...
Yes.
So, I mean, he might know who Jesus is. But when you see those moments, you see that churn, you see somebody trying to struggle with who they are, and they don't like everything about what's going on inside of themselves, and they struggle with that. Sometimes we struggle in a positive way, we kind of fall forward, and sometimes we kind of fall on our rear ends because we beef it, right?
Yep.
And everybody does it. Rich, poor, famous, nobody knows your name,
anonymous Twitter account that's
right.
blowing things up. And
everybody does it. So,
and my point with that is that for us as Christians, it's maybe an opportunity to show a little empathy, even though it's ugly.
Yeah,
empathy of the fact that thankfully God's still working on people's hearts, even with His law in their hearts. Mm-hmm. That maybe eventually He might use that to open up the door for them to hear the gospel of Jesus.
Absolutely. So, well, that's about enough time given to TMZ over here.
As my dad would say, do you think we solved all the world's problems?
Yeah. This has been a water cooler talk kind of a deal, and that's fine. I like these because that's just the whole point. Like, what's on our minds today, and that's been on my mind. So, but we'll come at it with a maybe a deeper topic next time or something. But anyway, that's so much for the slap heard around the world.
Sounds good.
All right, catch y'all next time.
See you.